Okay, we are live right now. We have people joining right now. We can wait a couple of more seconds, like a minute, because we just started the live video. So thank you everyone for joining. I can see you're just coming on a live stream video. This is a webinar by IEEE Turkey PES, Culinary Society, and we will just start very soon. I think it's a good time to start. Hello, everyone. Hello, Juan Carlos. I would like to thank you firstly joining today. This is the webinar by IEEE Turkey PES to celebrate PES Day 2020. And we will talk about great things today. I would like to firstly thank you for your time in joining. You're joining from Costa Rica for well, you're actually long time friend of us, and you have a very successful career, and you're really good volunteer and really good volunteer in IEEE and Partner Society as our leader for many initiatives. I know you for a long time. And I will introduce myself first. This is Timaya Kar. I'm also a IEEE volunteer since 2007, and I'm serving several positions this year. One of them is IEEE Partner Society Vice Chair of Young Professionals and Women in Power Representative. So how we are connected with Juan Carlos. And also I'm on the executive board of IEEE Turkey section. So with collaboration with IEEE Partner Society and Turkey section, Partner Society Turkey chapter, we wanted to host Juan Carlos, and you just like accepted our invitation. We really appreciate for your time. And today we will talk about 100% renewable energy. Is it possible? Like, because during the hard days that we are having pandemic conditions, like again, we start discussing the importance of renewable energy. So, and Costa Rica is one of the leading countries in this case. And so you will share really good information about keys and lessons from Costa Rica's story in this session. And I would like to remind all the audience here, even you're watching from YouTube, you can ask your questions there. That will be interactive session at the end. So you can ask your question at the Q&A section. We will address all your questions, and we will I will forward your questions to Juan Carlos. And Juan Carlos, can you introduce yourself before we start your presentation?
Hi, Simai. Do you hear me well?
Yes,
Excellent. And thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very glad to be today with you. As you said, we are longtime friends, and this is part of the beauty of IEEE PES. I'm from Costa Rica. You're from Turkey. We met several years ago. We have been working in a lot of initiatives, as you said, young professional, women in power, and it's amazing to have this kind type of opportunities. As we always say, it's IEEE. It's a great networking place. It has been very helpful for my career, to my life, and I actually, as I have been saying lately, even this in this pandemic problem, IEEE have been very supportive to my day life job. I work in National Control Energy Center in Costa Rica. We are the system operator of Costa Rica. We are the highest level of authority within the bulk power system. I am also an advisor of the general electricity manager. So it's quite fun times right now due to pandemic. I'm sure you're staying at home as me and a lot of friends. And this type of activity online is amazing because again, it shows how we can share knowledge together and we can solve a lot of things. So again, I will be very happy to talk about Costa Rica, our experience dealing with high level of renewables. We have doing very fine, very well, as you will see in some slides that I have prepared. But of course, there are some challenges and some things that we need to still work. So thank you very much again for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here with you again.
absolutely. And your knowledge and experience will be really helpful, to address those issues during the pandemic phase. As you said, like all the actions I'm sure you will address uh, as like IEEE Partner Society and IEEE, other IEEE organizational and technical units already took some initiatives and start some initiatives to respond COVID-19 situation and try to find some new initiatives to handle the situation. So like, and in our professional lives, I've been working also for renewable energy industry for a long time. And so like, we're probably feeling more proactive and active in our life to find solution in this situation. And Costa Rica is a really success story for this. Like, and we would like to hear from you the story behind of the success and continue interactive discussion afterwards. May I just like give you the floor to start this presentation?
Thank you. I will start sharing it. Let me see how we do it. Okay. Okay. Uh, could you see it fine?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah. So again, thank you very much. As I was saying, I'm from Carlos Montero. I'm from Costa Rica. I work on the National Energy Control Center in Costa Rica, the system operator. I'm also the IEEE EPS Vice President of Membership and Image. I'm also the IEEE Central America Council President-elect. And as am I have been working several years in several IEEE positions, and it's a great place. And again, I want to emphasize that it's very important and have been amazing in my career, and it has been a great support right now with the situation that we are living. As I said, I work in the National Control Center system operator. So the health of our system operators is very critical since they're a very limited amount of people. And I have been in touch with several IEEE volunteers through the world, and they have shared with me knowledge. And as I may say, actually, IEEE PS recently shared free to everyone white paper about what's happening in the world, what is people the utilities doing, because there are not fixed rules. And again, this is the nice things of PS. We can share experience. We can say, hey, what are you doing? What are you suggesting? And we share it, and we work together as friends, and it's quite amazing. So regarding Costa Rica, as Simai was saying, we have been doing quite well the latest years integrating renewables. Costa Rica have a long history about it, and we will check what are the challenges that we're seeing, what are the opportunities. There's a lot of nice things to do. We still need to do a lot of work, but again, we will see it in the few slides that I have here. Let me change here. Okay, so this is a quite nice snapshot of Costa Rica land. We speak Spanish, so be have mercy of my English. Sometimes it will sound tricky. As you can see, we have only 5 million population, so we are not a very big country, and you can also see it in the area of the country. The access to electricity is 99.4%, so almost all the population have electricity. We are very proud also about it. And we are located, if you see the map, just in the tropical area. So that give us an interesting, nice weather. It's also, that also helps, of course. And we don't have oil resources. That's also very important. So, uh, uh, of course, that means that we need to use our natural resources to produce energy. In this nice picture, you actually see several things that will be critical if in Costa Rica for the experience regarding renewables. You can see a PV plant, 1 megawatt, a geothermal plant, that's the next building. And if you have lucky, you have high resolution or good connection, maybe you can see in this area of the mountain, there's a line of wind turbines because we also have a lot of wind farms. So part of the things that we are dealing in Costa Rica is again this: we are a small country. We have very small geographic dispersion, and that's the first challenge and the first thing success thing to have a very high integration of renewables. Geographic dispersion, have the things very far from things. That's a great thing. So what happened to Costa Rica during the last years? Last year, and last year was actually a very dry year in Costa Rica, and meaning that we had a lack of hydro resources. We were able to keep 99.15% of our sorry 99%, let's round it, of our electric energy, our demand came from the renewable energy, and we are very proud of it. It is actually not the first time, but one of the highest. If you check during the last 4 years, we have been doing very well with a high renewable energy in the system, and that's makes us very proud as Costa Ricans. Costa Ricans, we support nature and we try to keep it, and being able to keep it so renewable is very proud for us, and of course give us opportunity to go more for decarbonization, try to decarbonize going for electromobility, the heat, trying to take out the non-renewable resources. So there's a lot of opportunities, of course, but that means that we also need to improve our system and do a lot of stuff. But the nice thing and the tricky thing is, again, if you see, I say 99% of our annual energy came from renewable, but that's a very rough number, right? 99% of the annual window is a lot. If you can see in my screen, we have more than 300 days being, let's say, 100 renewables. But that's not true, actually, right? When you have renewables, and especially when you have runoff river, you have a lot of wind. And of course, if you have PV, you have energy when you have energy. It depends on nature, and it's not mostly in your control, right? So actually, in those more than 300 days that you see in the screen, we were, let's say a number, 110, 120 percent renewable, meaning we have excess and we have even more renewable energy that we needed in the country, right? And of course, that means you need to check how to operate safely, keeping the reliability of the system, and keep the things going, even though you have too much of renewable energy and you have to check what to do with it. Some people say, well, Costa Rica is just lucky. It's just something of nature. And that's not so far. Of course, if nature says no wind, there's no wind. If there's no water, there's no water. But if we check the behavior of other countries in Central America, of course, we're right together. If we don't have water, they don't have water. It's the same wind that we get. It's the same wind that they get. The numbers are quite different. These are the numbers of 2018. Those are the numbers that are public right now. So you can see how much renewable were the other countries. And as you can see, even though we are next to each other, we are very small countries, the level of renewable energy is quite different. And that's because Costa Rica decided too long ago that Costa Rica wanted to keep renewable and had been developing and integrating it quite often, right? So of course, some countries decided, well, we want to keep having some thermal generation. We want to go natural gas. Well, those are options. We have to respect it. But again, Costa Rica decided we want to use the renewable resources we have, and we are using them from a long time ago, and now right now very successful. And one thing that is important is the next one. So if you check our installed capacity, we have 3.5 gigawatts for a round number. 65% of our installed capacity is hydro. 7.3 is geothermal. 11% is wind. We have a little bit of biomass. We have a very few PV installations, and we will talk about it later. And we have, of course, a lot of thermal generation installed, 30%. So this is one of the things that we need to start discussing, and I would like to say we try to keep it very clear in Costa Rica. You should understand the behavior and the generation patterns of your resources in your country, and you have to work with them, all of them. And at least in Costa Rica, we also want to keep the thermal generation is not a so bad thing. You need to keep it as the low which you can. But sometimes, as I was saying, generation, at least this time in Costa Rica, we need it. Meaning, we are a small country, as I was saying, and sometimes we have issues with the lack of wind in the whole country at the same time. And in Costa Rica, we have two seasons. We have the dry season, that is the first years of the year. Dry season in a country with 65% of hydro generation, things start ringing, right? And then we have the rainy season in the second half of the year. We are lucky because when we have dry season, we usually have high wind season, and when we have rainy season, we don't have wind. So there's a level of compensation between the resources, and that's kind of things that we have to understand. The resources have different behavior. You have to understand. It is like how do you call it? A puzzle. You have to start building the bricks, building the bricks, and start replacing the resources when they have and respecting their capabilities. And what happened in Costa Rica is that even though we are 99% renewable through the annual energy, sometimes we need to start the thermal generation because again, maybe we're in dry season, there is no wind, and it could happen for several days. So even though we have 30% of thermal generation, as you can see here, we only use it for 85% of the energy. So there's a lot of installations there just for backup. That's the meaning. Something that you also need, it's good to give you some information, back information. It is in Costa Rica, we have a government monopoly regarding electricity. So I work in the ICE, the Instituto Costarricense de Electricidad, Costa Rican Institute of Electricity. And we are the government utility. We own the transmission system. We have most of the generation. We have several distribution companies. And again, this is the national numbers. Even though we have private generation, they have their own rules, right? So they have to sell it to Easy, my company, and we have some distribution company that they have their own plants. But only Easy, as the only responsible in law to keep the electricity flow going, is the only company in Costa Rica that have thermal generation. But as I said, you can see we have it as a backup. That's an interesting point again for backup renewable energy. How do you want to back up your renewable energy? As you know, that it can be there and then cannot be up. And you will see some other tricks we're doing. We don't back up all the renewable energy just with thermal. We use our reservoirs, our dams, to back up in a renewable way. And that's have been part of the success stories in our case. This is Costa Rica, a little bit bigger picture. And as you can see, we only have four important water reservoirs. We have one that it's a pluriannual reservoir, so we can keep water from one year to the other. So as I was saying, we store water from the rainy season and we use it the next year in the dry season. We have other three medium size. Again, let's say it again, in one of our reservoirs, we can keep water from 1 year to other. That's a lot of energy, a very, very big dam, right? Or reservoir. It depends how you say it in the country. And we have two others that you can store water for a month. So those are not very bad. And we have another that you can say you can keep it for a week. So most of our hydro, even though it's hydro, it's runoff water reservoir plants. Sorry, meaning that the water that gets to that hydro plants, if you use it well, and if you don't use it, it goes to the sea. Or maybe you have a little small, very small capability of storage, one of maybe at the maximum 9 hours. The other thing that you can see is that most of our wind farms are located in the north part of the country, and that means that they are actually very close, right? And that goes to the other challenge that I said. It's a success factor. It is a success factor to have very big geographic dispersion because, of course, it cancels the effects of PV wind patterns. But in the case of Costa Rica, we have a small country and all the most of the generation is located in the scenarios. So as I said, that's a very big challenge because as I said, we can get out of power generation, wind power generation, due to two factors. Maybe we have too much wind, and you know that wind turbines shut down for a very high speed. Or sometimes we don't have generation because there's no wind, and there's no wind in the whole country. So you have to use the other generation as backup. And actually, giving you a hint, what we do is that we use the medium-sized reservoirs as renewable or energy security storage places. So when we get out of wind, we use these renewable hydro resources to back up the ramps. And if needed, of course, we need to make a mix of thermal generation, hydro generation to support it. So this is a typical season, typical day. Again, dry season usually goes from January to June. It's a very long season. And in this season, we can see several patterns. Well, geothermal generation is amazing. It is like nuclear energy, that base generation, 24 hours, all the years. They only go out for maintenance. So it's amazing, and we're using the energy of our volcanoes in Costa Rica. We have a little of biomass, as I said, but on the dry season, it's the wind season. So we can have a lot of energy coming from the wind generation, and it's very constant almost all the time, and it gives us a lot of energy. Then the rest of the generation of the demand was supplied by hydro generation, but most of this energy that you see right now, it's coming for actually for the big reservoirs, and of course, we use as most we can the water from the other hydro plants. Some issue that we have and lately is that sometimes in low demand, there are so many non-controllable renewable resources, or how you call it, variable energy resources in English, that sometimes it's complex to keep the operational reserves, spinning reserves, AGC secondary reserves, because most of the things are, again, use it or take it or leave it. So it has been a challenge a little bit to handle operational reserves in this part of the system. The other thing that happens sometimes is again that at low demand, we have so much renewable energy that we cannot, and we don't have that amount of demand. So no, of course that makes a challenge because if you cannot use the energy because there's no demand, you try to sell it to other country, but as you will see, we have some limited transfer capability, and we don't have storage devices. Uh, Rather than the hydro things that I mentioned, then you have to leave the water go to the sea. And sometimes when we are 100% renewable, we have so many energy that we cannot use, sell or storage, that we have to send it to the sea. Leave the water go, leave the wind flow, and of course, we are trying to create new opportunities to use this all the energy into our country. In dry season, as I said, it happens that at the end of the dry season, especially, the winds start to go, and we have a lot of wind and a lot of water and a lot of biomass, and then when we need to use the thermal generation, maybe 24 hours a day, but a very short time, as I said, and you saw, most of the on the latest 5 years, we will have been over 98% of renewable energy on the annual window. On the rainy season, of course, there's a lot of water. Sometimes there's still a wind, and we have excellence all the day. So we have so many energy, renewable energy, that we try to sell it the 24 hours a day to other countries. We take out our power plants with reservoirs, first of all, to start storage energy for the next dry season, and because there's so many water going to the runoff rivers, the power plants, that we can take care of the country, right? So, as I was, some things that I have said. First of all, geographic dispersion is critical. It's very good. Understand the patterns of the resources and build the bricks to use it, and keep the idea of what are you going to do with the excellence you are going to have daily. Because some people will say, well, maybe Costa Rica can build a lot of more of renewable power plants for the dry season, so you don't use thermal generation. Sounds logical, but again, you have to evaluate what are you going to do with all that energy then in that rainy season, because in the rainy season there's no need at all for thermal generation, so you will have higher excellence. And of course, there are opportunities to handle that. Uh, yes, again, the demand uh, management is increasing on the whole world. Storage is increasing in the whole world. There's a lot of technology being developed. So there's a lot of opportunities coming. Electromobility, as I said, but those are the things that you have to start managing to be so renewable and use as much as you can all the resources you have. Of course, Costa Rica belongs to a Central America network. We are interconnected in AC from Panama to Mexico, and that means we have one 60 hertz frequency, right? We are at the end one big system, and that gives us another opportunity and another goal. How you say it, another winning aspect to integrate renewables. If you have to use your capability to exchange energy to the other countries, there's a lot of success stories around the world, uh, because now if we are interconnected and we are able to take backup when you don't have wind, or sell the extra energy when you have too much renewable generation, that's a great opportunity. In our case, Central America energy market is basically six countries. Even though we are interconnected with Mexico, the Central America energy market is based only in the six countries from Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. Each country it's a balancing area, so each country is responsible of to keep the balance between generation and load, to keep the frequency. Each country is responsible to keep the energy for its country, and we have the capability to sell energy to the other countries. And again, this is very important for renewable integration. But I'm sorry, we have the problem that at this moment the market is a day ahead market. So uh, it's complex, right? Because you in Costa Rica, and you need to make an offer at 12 midday of the next 24 hours, and as you know, that's another thing that you need is a forecast. You need very good forecast tools to their daily operations and to keep the backup. You keep to keep the backup and the ability to sell energy on the regional market or to the other countries. But if the market is very um, how you say it, not so frequent, then you have complexity, because again, forecast tools, they increase the error as time goes, right? So that's something we are working right now in Central America, right? Because we need more. frequent again markets, 1 hour ahead, intra-hour ahead markets. Those are the things that we are discussing right now. And of course, as is market right now there, you need very strong tie lines, right? There are very success stories in Europe about countries integrating wind, but they have amazing tie lines and exchange capability. And as I said, that is another success thing for renewable, high exchange capabilities, very quick and frequent markets. Those are things that can make opportunities to exchange energy from one country to other and use it, the renewables as they are, very changing in the time. I already kind of mentioned this, but in our case in Costa Rica, one of the key factors is the use of our reservoirs. Of course, the annual reservoir have to be uh, managed in the right way. So we have energy plans. We run simulations to see how the level is going to be used in the whole year, and that's that graph in the corner. That's the level of water in that reservoir. And so you can see that we use it, and well, we keep the water in the second part of the year, and we try to use the water in the first part of the year for generation. So it's very important. So that's a very key factor. But as I said, we don't use the thermal generation to back up directly the wind. We use our medium-sized reservoirs in a way very optimized to optimize the cost and to optimize the security of the energy. So again, if the wind goes, we have water in those places that we can use to back up and keep not using the energy from the thermal generation. And of course, we also have the options to purchase energy in the regional market. And just to give you some examples, these are two graphs of the wind generation. The graphic on your left is what some wind generation in January. That's the high wind season. But as you can see, even in the high wind season, we had a window of 5 days without any wind power generation. And that's a big hit if you have so much wind generation. But that's not a challenge, as I said, because we have been, again, we have the forecast, so we know that that thing is coming. And then we have the water reservoirs to back up that energy. And then if it goes more, again, we need to use thermal generation and backup. Um, you will say, well, maybe in the future you can back up with PV generation, store it in storage. Yes, it could be. Those are the type of the things that are actually increasing more and more. You know, in California, for example, in states, and you have heard of the Tesla batteries in Australia. We have very big batteries right now. They can last for over 5 hours, right? But again, you have to check how much energy you need to storage, the level of power. There's several things that you need to check. Those are things that are increasing day by day. In the other graphic, you can see a negative very quickly, a wind ramp, due gust, wind gusts. So you can see that we had a lot of wind generation, and then it goes down to zero, and it started almost immediately to increase. That's another operational challenge because, first of all, again, the wind ramps are actually not very easy to forecast. And the other thing, if you're relying in generation and it goes, and if let's say you decide to turn on thermal generation, then and then the wind comes back so quickly. Most of the thermal generation cannot be shut down so quickly. Once you turn it on, you have to keep it several times on, and then you can turn it off. There are some time restrictions, so you have to check how to manage all the resources you have, right? In our case, as you saw in the numbers, we don't have too much PV generation right now. We're working to see when to use that resources because, of course, we have a lot of capability being in the tropical area. Right now, the optimization tools that we have been using, they decided to install more wind farms because they have higher power factor. But we are evaluating to change that, and we are expecting to have more PV in the future. utility scale PV. Of course, we already starting to have a very big boost on distributed generation, and those numbers are increasing a lot. A lot of countries in Central America, they already are installing big PV power plants, and they are doing quite well, right? Again, it's just another resource that you have, and again, in our case, we are starting to use it. There's a lot of opportunities, but of course, you have to also know that again, the geographic dispersion will be a success thing. For example, even though this is a very specific case, of course, but it's very clear. We have 1 megawatt power PV power plant, and this is the power generation one day, this is the next day, and the next day. So you can see that if you have very close resources, of course, a cloud could pass through the sky and make these very and quickly variations that won't happen if you have a very big PV or if you have it distributed through the country, right? But those are just things to consider as they can be fixable, and you just need to know how to measure it, to work with it and deal with it. As I said, we have a lot of energy resources excess. As I said, we try to sell it, we start the storage, and sometimes a lot of the years we need to send it to the sea as we don't have demand. So Costa Rica is working very hard in decarbonization, and we have more than 1,000 electrical vehicles right now in the country, and it's growing very fast. So ICE, our company, is also leading the installation of fast and let's say medium-sized chargers, so we can have a very strong and quickly, very strong and distributed charging network in the country. And if you check in Central America and Latin America, actually we are like in the third place regarding electric vehicles and the charging network that we deployed in the country. But because it's a win-win situation, because again, we have a lot of renewable resources. We still haven't used the PV, so we still need more. We still need, we still have more resources to use. So it's kind of, let's use it for decarbonize our transportation. It's again, there's a great opportunity in that area. And one of the latest slides is again, this regeneration is increasing, and that's a challenge and an opportunity. But why a challenge? Because as I said, we don't need more renewable energy. We are almost 100%. We're 99%. But of course, people want to use PV. They have their reasons. They want to lower costs, etc. And the other, and it's an opportunity because at the end, distributed generation, it's coming. That's a reality. It's coming, and it can improve the operation distribution systems. There's changing all the way we operate distribution systems, voltage control, auxiliary services. There's a lot of opportunities there. As I said, we are trying to use the excellence that we are currently seeing to decarbonize industry with hot water boilers and transportation with electrical vehicles. So we are working very hard in several aspects of it. And of course, we're working to improve our transfer capability and market rules so we can exchange even more and faster way renewable energy to our next neighbor countries, right? And that's all I have right now. In Costa Rica, we say pura vida. That's one of our favorite phrase in Spanish, but it means thank you. So, Simai, that's what some small details about how we are doing operating our system. And I'm ready to talk to you and check about the questions.
Thank you so much. It was a really inspiring presentation and information for many of the countries all around. Just go for more renewables, and actually we learn a lot from you. But still, we may have more questions. Now it's actually for the audience. That's actually a good time to ask your questions at one moment. We already received some questions, but I would like to start from some that actually, from my perspective, that you said lastly. Yeah, I mean, with the success story, you're right. This is a challenge and an opportunity at the same time, because you already have a success story. But considering the technology, you still will go more for this, especially you were just talking about new technologies installed and maybe backup with solar and plus storage technologies to advance more. You know, it's like actually, it's like you already reached that level and you need to back up and make it stronger for the future. And we may maybe start from this question and just like this is obviously a challenge, but an opportunity. So like you know, just like because they're like as you mentioned, like California example, there are some regulations they're just trying to go for. What Costa Rica can do more for this in particular, and considering to many other countries that are trying to invest more in the renewables, what is just like, because you know, like in renewable energy is also depends on the country's natural resources. Solar, wind are like everywhere, but still there are some feasibility studies that you need to advance also. So what you could advise briefly?
Thank you. So as I said, there's a lot of opportunities. I said challenge because again, I want to emphasize we already it's a challenge if you're looking to be 100 renewable, we are really close. And as I said, sometimes more than 300 days of the year, we are more than 100 more than 100 renewable, right? So you need to check for the balance to close that gap, but you know that you can have more excess in the time, right? As I said, maybe you can fix the use of thermal generation in the dry season, and then you have extra generation for in the rainy season. So that's why you need more technology to give flexibility to your system. And that's changing. The storage is a great key player. Uh, everyone in the energy field should follow storage development because, as I said, in California they are using very big batteries to move energy from daylight time to other times, and that's a possibility, right? The storage is increasing the size or capability of energy storage, and the costs are going down. So there's a great capability there. And the other thing, again, if you have flexibility in the demand with electrical vehicles, heaters, um, smart buildings, then that management of excedents and energy will be easier for the system operator. And those things are happening. Those are things that are doing right now. In the distribution level, again, the PV generation is growing, it's increasing very quickly. And it's going to support the voltage profile in the networks. It's going to support frequency. No, it's going to, no, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong word. It's already doing it. It's supporting the voltage, supporting the frequency. So the technology is changing a lot, and there's a lot of opportunity for PV generation. And that's where I would say that's the next step that Costa Rica is doing. As I said, right now we don't have a lot of PV, or at least very big PV power plants. But in the next years, we already have plans to start increasing it. Just for give you an example, for example, in our generation planning studies, in the next years, we don't have any thermal generation. We are going to have just thermal generation and PV and wind power plants. That's what we see in the next years. And I'm talking about the next 10 years. So we are sure that with storage and all development and technology that is coming, we will be able to handle and integrate more renewables in our system.
Yes, absolutely. They're really good points, Juan Carlos. So, and before moving to questions, I would like to just highlight Provida is really good philosophy. It's actually really important to learn from Costa Rican culture for many of us all around the world. Yeah, thank you for saying Provida for all of us. And So like question comes from the question and answer section. How much did Costa Rican government invest on renewables, and how long did it take for it to achieve 100% dependency?
Well, that's a very complex question to answer. What I understood, how much the government is investing in renewable energy and how much time is going to take us to the 100. Um, well, as I said, all the in the next 10 years, all the investment coming from the government side, sorry, is going to be in renewables. As I said, we are expecting a 50 megawatts geothermal power plant, and we're expecting 150 megawatts on PV and wind generation. So that's a lot of money. Just but there's for the rough numbers, right? 150 megawatts of wind generation and or PV, that could easily be 300 million of dollars in the investment, right? Generation is also renewable generation is also being installed by other players, as I say, private generators, and distribution companies. So I don't have exactly a number how much the government is using it, but as I said, all the plans are just to invest in renewable energy in the next 10 years. I hope that give you an idea. And respect to the plans, the government is looking to become 100% renewable in the next years. But the truth, and again, that due to our generation patterns, we don't see that it's going to be so easily achieved. We are, again, as any utility, we have long-term simulations regarding generation and due to the very high level of hydro generation that we have, in all the cases, we still keep 99, again, because we have too much hydro, right? Maybe part of the things that we will need to evaluate is if we increase the mix, again, increasing more PV generation to compensate the hydro. But again, at this moment, the optimization tools, that to create a generation planning plan, you need to run several optimization tools. At this moment, the optimization tools are showing that we will be still keep very close to the 100, but 99.5, 99.7, 99.1, 90%, 99%. So again, it's not an easy answer right now for that question.
Sure, but it's still very clear. Thank you for the clarification for the question asked on the chat box. So, and you highlighted the importance of the distribution generation for the future of Costa Rican renewable energy. So like, and you mentioned about the EV potential and also the future plans. So what about infrastructure and the future plans for the charging stations or solar charging stations or car parks? Like, do you have existing strategy for investment on the EV infrastructure?
Yes, regarding electric mobility, the government is completely aligned to promote this resource. As I said, we have a lot of renewable energy available. So it's a win-win situation to promote electromobility. So the government issued a law recently to promote and kind of advise, very hard, let's say, distribution companies to create again this charging network, and it's going very well. Again, we have almost all the country deployed with fast chargers or medium-sized chargers, so the electrical vehicles can actually go very safely through the whole country. For example, and we are actually purchasing 28 bigger chargers that are coming in the next years. So the charging network is becoming very strong. and again supporting the owners to feel safe that they won't get out of charge by driving, right? So we have laws that promote electric mobility. They give tax, how you call it? You don't have to pay taxes. They again, they make orders to the distribution companies to create charging networks. We're working right now also in public transportation, electromobility. So we are, the government again and the utilities are working to change regular buses to electrical buses, and some foreign governments are actually supporting us. So there's also activity over there. And right now, actually, there's a discussion about an electric train again to be deployed in the country. So there's a full commitment from the government. Again, even the society is very committed to change to electromobility. And as you said, and I was saying, these are opportunities again because we can install more PV to charge the electrical vehicles. We can, at this moment, we don't have PV charging stations. They are mostly connected to the network. Again, as the energy is already 100% renewable most of the days. But people, well, I'm wrong. There's people that they have electric vehicles and they have PV panels on the roof. So we are already using PV panels on the roof. And the other again, as it is supported by the government, and of course at the end this means more sales for the distribution companies. They are making the investment and supporting the cars, trucks, buses owners to change to electromobility.
Wonderful. Great to
That's
hear
mine.
all of these great plans, and you're already doing great. Like, although there are like challenges, so there is no doubt that Costa Rica will reach out to such new success stories sooner than many of us. But and I hope the Costa Rica case will inspire many countries all around the world as well. So, and another question. So it's actually from IEEE that I would like to ask you. So, firstly, I want to ask you that what is your response for the importance of renewable energy all around the world, especially during the COVID-19 situation and pandemic situation, and during and after. So how do you see the importance of the renewable energy for the rest of the world?
Okay, you said by as IEEE, right?
First, your point of view, then I will ask IEEE later.
Okay. Well, COVID is it's a very complex situation for all the system operators, right? Meaning the most clear effect that we have seen is a decrease in the demand. Even here in Costa Rica, the demand had decreased like 5%. But you know that some countries that they are very locked down, they have very hard lockdowns. They have seen 30% of the energy decrease. And that especially had changed several things. First of all, if you have very low demand, the voltage increase in the transmission system, so you have to control it. The other thing that it had happened is that, well, of course, you have less demand, right? So you use your cheaper resources and how is it, forces resources also. So the system have been using less thermal generation, and that's very good, of course, because that lowers the cost, the operational cost in all the systems. Um, and from that standpoint, okay. Of course, it also means that the utilities are having less incomes. That's something that will be needs to be analyzed, and it will create an impact on the networks. But in Costa Rica, in a specific case, the COVID impact had been a decrease of 5% of the demand. That had that had created us to use less thermal generation and less purchase of energy, because right now we are in the dry season, as I said. So it had been kind of good for the operational point of view, because you are using cheaper resources. You don't need to purchase energy in this region. And we haven't had any problem with high voltage in our specific case. So again, being able to have our own resources to don't depend of anyone, to be self-dependent, our use of renewables have been amazing in Costa Rica, and that had give us confidence in the system, because again, we have all our systems in Costa Rica, sorry, all our energy and all our resources coming from our own country. So it's a safety place, a good place to be right now. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for this good feedback from your personal point of view. And maybe it's pretty similar as one of our valuable leaders of our Triple Power Energy Society. So like maybe you would just also address some points from the society's perspective, and society, just as you already mentioned, already published a white paper, and also the working groups are doing new things and taking new initiatives. So you would maybe address also from the technical, so actually Partners Technical Society perspective.
Thank you. Sure. That's actually very interesting. I actually have a slide here that I was going to use just in case. Let me.
That is great.
Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah. Let me go to the screen.
It's also nice to address from, because you're also one of the important volunteers working hard behind of these initiatives. So it's good to have you to address this.
Well, this is not part of our initial discussion, but as you said, it's part of the discussion at the end, and it's very interesting. So, of course, as I was saying, COVID virus has an impact on power systems, and IEEE PES didn't stop on that. IEEE PES, thanks to one of our task force and with the cooperation of our volunteers and technical committees, made a white paper that it's free to everyone. Maybe in a few seconds we can look for it on the IEEE Resource Center and project it. And again, I will show you what I have said in Costa Rica, the impact of the virus, and then I will extrapolate to this white paper. But again, in this white paper, IEEE PES, as I said, we know there's an impact on power systems. The power systems should stand on and keep the lights on, because in this way we support the people that is dealing in the hospitals, in the house. A lot of people are working from home right now. There's a lot of industry that is shut down right now. So with the help of volunteers and the technical committees, we made a survey in the whole world. We checked what was happening, and we create this white paper summarizing what the people is doing and sharing experience, because there's no rule to apply in this case. A pandemic is a people's event, and again, one of the first things that we are trying to do is to protect the people. As I said, and this is the load curve in Costa Rica, as we would say, this is the previous load curve, and this is the actual load curve. So in Costa Rica specific case, but this pattern had happened in all the world, there had been a decrease of the consumption due to people working at home and the shutdown of industry. In our case, as you can see, it is just a 5% decrease. But there are countries that as Panama, that I recently received an IEEE PES webinar about it, they almost got flat. It was amazing. They had a decrease of 30% of the demand. And this have seen in Europe and several systems. So this white paper, IEEE PES, checks what levels of decrease of the demand have been seen, the future impacts of incomes to utilities, as I said. That's another thing that IEEE PES had summarized in the white paper. As I was saying, I also saw in a IEEE PES Peru chapter webinar, we saw that in Peru, the use of natural gas had become almost nothing, because since they had a very big decrease in the demand, so they are using only renewables to cover the demand in these days. So again, that's very interesting. So the generation pattern has changed, and of course, the more expensive resources, not renewables, of course, are not being used. That lowers the operational cost. That will make an impact, of course, for the owners of those generation plants, because they're not working and they're not selling energy. So we will see what happened to them through the rest of the year, and depending on how we start business again. And the other thing that have been mentioned is the energy control centers. As I work with them, these have been one of the things that I like very much from IEEE PES, because again, this is a pandemic. This is a people event impacting the grid. So we have to take care of those limited amount of people that know how to run the grid. This is a picture of our control center in Costa Rica. As you can see, we also have electrical vehicles there for our use. But the people who work there is very limited, and it happens in all the systems in utilities. And the risk of COVID is that if you have one people sick, it is not just that one people is sick. The problem is that if you have one person sick, you have to isolate all the crew that works with people, and you have to isolate all the crews that were in close contact with these people. So there is a very big risk that you could COVID to lose the people operating power plants, the control centers. So this white paper from IEEE PES, it also covers what are the system operators doing regarding being more cleaning the personal rules, what type of cleaning, if we are using masks, if we are using to clean the shoes, if we are splitting the crews, if we are splitting the people that works in the control centers and activating other control centers. There's a lot of people also being trained to operate the system very quickly, because again, especially with COVID, there's a very big risk of losing people. And again, IEEE PES had created this task, and we actually, as I said, published this white paper 2 days ago maybe, and it's free for everyone, so you can download it to check all the impacts that we have seen in the electric industry. I hope that covers your questions, Imai. But let me know if you want to know more.
Absolutely, it was very clear then, and it was really helpful for many of us. And thank you for the hard work behind for all the PS volunteers, and also how you address the Costa Rican cases, and just like these are all great addresses. So it was really inspirational session, Juan Carlos. First, first of all, I would like to really thank you for your time. So like we can just like summarize this webinar, and maybe I may ask you if you have some more advices to share before we close and wrap up.
Yeah, sure. As I said, from our experience, all the countries are looking to integrate the most as we can of renewable energy, and we have PV, wind, and there's a lot of things. But some tricks that we have learned is strong interconnections, very quickly markets, so we can exchange energy. And again, geographic dispersion, that helps a lot. Flexibility in the generation and now in the demand. There's a lot of things in the demand: electric vehicles, smart buildings, storage, smart grids. There's a lot of exciting in the power system, and you have to use all the flexibility to deal with the flexibility of the renewables, and that's good, fine, and you can deal with it. But if you have all these bricks and start building your model, you can do a lot of things. Of course, there's a legal part and market rules in your country, but sometimes that's the tougher part, because within the electrical part, we have a lot of resources to integrate renewables. And again, we need to do it for our planet, again, for responsibility of our planet. In Costa Rica, we are very respectful of our nature, and it looks that it can be done. We have been working very good, and we are very happy about it. And again, pura vida. Muchas gracias.
Pura vida. Thank you so much, Juan Carlos, for everything and everything you shared with us today. And I would like to thank you everyone for watching. And you don't hesitate. Please spread the word out and share this video with your friends and your peers. Um, so like we need more renewables all around the world, and hope we will also learn a lot from the Costa Rica case, and also like as IEEE Partner Society, because this session was IEEE Partner Society well, on behalf of the celebrations. So, but it's not just for celebrations, because the society is working hard for many things all around the world, all around the year, so and all around the world. So this is actually a good time to just like unite and keep working harder. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for Juan Carlos sharing your time and all these great ideas with us and inspiring us for everything you have done.
No,
Yes.
Simon, again, it's a pleasure for me. Again, you have been a long time friend. Again, being able to chat just a few seconds in at this moment, it has been amazing, and we have been talking a long time to do something together, and this has been a great idea. We're really happy. I hope you can join the IEEE PES Turkey chapter. All the student branches over Turkey, they're very active. They're amazing. And this is not just a Juan Carlos thing. All the IEEE PES governing board knows about Turkey, and how they are doing an amazing team, amazing activities, and they have amazing teams. I just would like to share you, let me change before I go, the screen about this. This is the paper, the white paper that I mentioned. Just Google IEEE PS Resource Center and you will see that the document, as I
We're
said,
not,
is free
we are
for
not
everyone.
screen, just sorry for interruption. So we're not screen the page. Okay, now it's here.
You can
Wonderful.
see it now?
We can see now.
Yeah. Yeah, so as you can see, it's free for everyone. You can download it. And it's an amazing knowledge sharing experience. So again, this is a part of the beauty of PS. As I said, this was built with people from all the world, volunteers, no payment, just looking to share to anyone what we are doing to keep the lights on. And again, as I said, in Turkey, we have a lot of friends in Europe and a lot the rest of the world. So join us. Maybe next time you can come to Costa Rica, as Simay already did once. I have to go to visit her in Turkey one day.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping you have
No,
friends all over the world. Thank you.
Juan Carlos, you're welcome. We have, as you said, we have very active Turkey chapter and a lot of active Turkish student branches here. And you know, just like I've been Costa Rica, it's beautiful country. I mean, I really recommend everyone to go and visit. And we really look forward to having you here in Turkey. So like, and you know, like our Turkish student branches, partner society, student chapters, and the Turkey section and Turkey past chapters. You know, just like we were very excited having you here. I just want to tell you today was a hard day for me. You know, I've been volunteering for IEEE since my student years, and I from my student branch today from those years. It's a good friend of mine passed away. We heard that it was just a hard day. I want to memorize Ece Alfugan from here as our good volunteer, good human being. We will miss her a lot. And this is actually important how we unite all around the world. And I had the chance to see you as a long-term friend and lifelong friend. And also, you know, I'm sure many volunteers all around are really united. And I really hope we will do better things. We will keep up the good work together. And today also we already had many other audience outside of IEEE. I hope we also inspired them. They're doing a great job together. We are family all around the world. And thank you for time, even for today, you know, even this hard day, meeting with you was really more, it was even more important for me. Thank you so much for your time, Juan Carlos.
My pleasure, my friend, my pleasure.
Thank you. Okay. Everyone, this is the end of the session. I'm just seeing you have very good feedback on the chat. And please share this video with your friends and everyone. Thank you. Stay safe and
Thank you.
hope to
Bye-bye.
meet with you, Juan Carlos, and meet with everyone somewhere around the world soon.
Stay safe. Thank you very much.
Stay safe, everyone.